and welcome. Today I'm joined by a very, very special guest. I am joined by Olivier Roland. I have the pleasure of knowing Olivier through Jeff Walker's Platinum Plus Mastermind, which I'm a member of for the last few years. And Olivier has stood out as a member of that elite mastermind since the very first day. And the reason why Olivier stands out is he asks some critically important questions, and his main focus is about simplifying. His main focus is about prioritization. His main focus is getting the most out of everything that we have. He's the ultimate 80-20. Olivier has recently just published a book. Now, this is a bestseller in French. He has got it republished for the English-speaking market, The Way of the Intelligent Rebel. And I'm going to let Olivier introduce himself in a second. But the main purpose of today is to talk about Olivier's book, to talk about the lessons that are in here, to talk about what we can apply out of his global best-selling The Way of the Intelligent Rebel. So, Olivier, do you maybe want to just start off by giving the audience a feel for who you are, where you came from, and why should they invest the time in listening to you right now?
Hello, Des. Well, first, thank you. It's a wonderful introduction. Thank you for having me here. So, yeah, as you can guess from my accent, I'm a French guy. So I'm an entrepreneur, author, international speaker, and I like to say I'm a teacher of freedom. I share to my audience how to be free, mainly through entrepreneurship, but it can be with other means. And I basically teach how to create and grow a company that is in service of your life instead of your life being in service of your company. And also I have a part where I share like things how to be free in your mind, through personal development. I stopped school at 18 to start my first company, and it was a wonderful adventure. But like many entrepreneurs, I ended up, working 60, 70 hours a week, which was great in the beginning because when you start your company, you don't care, right? You're just like on fire. But after a few years, I was looking to have more balance in my life. I was still very young, like maybe 24. And I realized, and it was a big shock for me, that this company that I created to be free was actually a jail I created for myself, because I didn't see how to sell it. I didn't see how I could lower my time in this company without, making it hard to be profitable. I couldn't see how to delegate efficiently. I was very it was like a big problem for me. So I was like, wow, I couldn't even stop the company because as a company manager in France, I didn't have any rights, for unemployment payments and this kind of stuff. So I was like, wow, I cannot even stop it if I want. What do I do? Or if I do, I have no income at all. So it was a shock for me, and I looked for solutions for years, and I had to, teach myself how to be a better entrepreneur, so I wouldn't be the slave of my own business. And so now that's one of the things I teach, and one of the things I teach in The Way of the Intelligent Rebel.
I love that, Olivier, about being a better entrepreneur. So we wake up and we decide we're going to be entrepreneurs. We decide we're going to be business owners. Sometimes we don't wake up and decide. It's just something that happens. We find ourselves in a situation where we're business owners. But, that sometimes you see that funny meme or funny gif where, like, entrepreneurs, the only people who choose to work 80 hours a week to avoid working in a 40-hour-a-week job. But it can be like building a jail.
Yeah.
Like, Olivier, in your experience, obviously you've got your journey, and that's the way of the Intelligent Rebel. But in the hundreds and thousands of people that you've worked with, can any entrepreneur in any business build this freedom that you talk about?
Well, theoretically, yes, but some industries are easier than others. But you can see like people who did that in every kind of business, even business that require a lot of, time and maintenance and that are brick and mortar. like if you look at, for example, McDonald's is a great story because it has basically two beginnings. The first was in the 1940s. The McDonald brothers started like just a burger restaurant. Well, this was a very, very common business, but they had this insight, this genius of really like making it like very, very streamlined, very efficient. And they didn't want to build an empire with it. They made a lot of money and they were very happy with that. And they just focused on their lifestyle. There is a movie, The Founder, about this. And then Ray Kroc, who was a milkshake machine salesman, he stumbled upon this and he was like blown away, and he saw the potential to build a worldwide empire with it. And of course, the McDonald brothers saw it too, but they didn't want to do it. They were very happy with what they have. They made way more money than they could spend, and they just wanted to have a relaxed lifestyle. So Ray Kroc basically bought the business from the brothers and made it an empire. So here we have a very common business that usually takes a lot of time from the people who work in it, burger restaurant, but with the right process, the right mindset, you can make it like a lifestyle business. It's possible. But of course, some industries are easier for these than others. My industry is in the online education, and it's so much easier to do that because when I do a video on my YouTube channel, it will be seen by thousands of people at least. And I mean, and it will continue years after years. Some videos I made 10 years ago are still seen by hundreds of people every month. So here you have an example of one work I did years back that still pays dividend, that still bring prospect and customers every day or almost every day. So on the internet, it's easier to build systems that work for you and that are automated through software, algorithms, etc.
Yeah, but I think the key, so certain business sectors, like obviously, Olivier, as you know, our audience is predominantly accountants. But accountants are entrepreneurs. Accountants can follow. There's lots of things in the way of the Intelligent Rebel that absolutely applies to accountants. Accountants have kids. Accountants have clients. Accountants have prospective clients. So there's lots of valuable stuff in here. But
so wait, you mean that accountants are actually humans? Really?
Now, Olivier, we've heard all the jokes before. We won't stand for that or tolerate that here. But what you just said, like, it's process mindset. But you also did point out that in the McDonald's story, it needed that little bit of inside genius. It needed the requirement to step back,
yes,
and actually think about what are we doing. So it's what is the process? How can we tweak our process to get a more intelligent result?
Sure. I mean, the very basic process, and I learned it from a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. It's like easy. No, it's not easy. It's simple and hard. It's simple to do, but it's not so easy to do. It's just to, like you said, to step back and to understand that in order to have a real business, you need to work on your business and not in your business. Or at least you need to spend a bit of time every day, week on your business and not in. So what does it mean? When usually people, accountants, I think it's the same, but in most industries anyway, people that start their company, they start from their technical skills. They're like, oh, I'm a good plumber. I was an employee before. Now I want to be my own boss. Oh, I'm a good accountant. So I'm going to start my own company, which is great. But the problem is you can be very, very good at what you do. It doesn't mean you're a good entrepreneur. It's a different skills, and the thing is you need to learn these. And the problem is most people are not really aware of these. They are maybe a little bit aware, but not so much. You need to be able to do marketing, how to recruit people, how to manage them, and I mean a lot of different things, and also how to think as your business, not as a job, but as a company that could live without you. That's the goal. That's the ideal. And so the difference between working in and on is like when you're really doing something that someone else could do, like calling customers or prospect on the phone. Instead of these, you could just like create a process that other people that you will recruit or even prospect, like freelancers, could use to do what you are doing now. And there is a simple exercise you can do to train yourself, is to think of your business as the first business of a franchise, like McDonald's. Imagine that your business is the first restaurant of a McDonald's franchise, all right? Or the first business of an accounting franchise that will spread everywhere in your country and maybe in the world. For this model, for your model to be replicated everywhere, you need to know what are your processes, how your business works, what doesn't work, and to document it, basically. I always joke that there was an amazing invention in human history, like thousands of years ago. It is writing. Writing completely changed our civilization. Before writing, we could only spread knowledge through word of mouth, and completely changed our civilization. But now, most business owners, most entrepreneurs, what do? They spread the knowledge inside the companies through word of mouth. There is insufficient processes to document the knowledge outside of the brain, So it's a part of the process of working in your on your company, not in your company, is to also make sure the knowledge is not only in your head or in the head of your employees. If you go as an entrepreneur or business owner in vacation and people in your company have to call you often, maybe every day, something is wrong. It's because the knowledge they are seeking is only in your head, and it shouldn't be. It should be somewhere else, in a wiki, in a Dropbox, in a video. And it's so easy today to document what you are doing. For example, every time you explain something on a computer, on a screen computer, to someone in your company, instead of just explaining, you explain, but also you record the screen and the mic at the same time. Doesn't take much more time, right? You just click on rec and you record it, and then you have a process. You have a video that record everything you said to explain the process to someone, but then the guy you explained to, he can replay the video. You can share the video to a new recruit, to someone who can replace the guy if he's sick or if he goes on holidays, etc., etc. So it's not so hard. You just need to think about it, and then with time you will build like this library of knowledge, of inside knowledge of your company, and it will remove a lot of problems and constraints and needs to contact you or other people in the company. That's just one example of working on your company and not in.
You're resonating with. I know you're not a specialist in the accountancy market, or Olivier, no, but you're immediately resonating with our audience. You've referred to the founder and the McDonald's story, which is something that I commonly talk about. You've talked about the E-Myth. Every accountant, despite the fact the E-Myth is now almost coming up on 35 years old, despite that fact, the E-Myth is still a staple. And then you're using the phrase, Olivier, of you've got to work on your business rather than work in it. So what do you say to me, right? When I'm faced with accountants every day who are going, but Des, there's too many clients, there's too many deadlines, there's too many problems. We've had coronavirus. I'm just running on the treadmill to stand still. How would you suggest somebody breaks that cycle? Because you were there in the old days. Like, Olivier, people might look at you and say, oh, well, he's in the internet marketing world. He's in information products. That's different to where I am as a business owner. But you've been through this transition before you got to where you are now. How can somebody start creating those gaps in terms of working on the business rather than in it if they're on a treadmill right now?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very common problem. Like you don't have time to put in place the good processes. And the thing is, you will never get the gain time because of this. And before I was in internet marketing, I had an IT business, a brick and mortar IT business. So I know very well this kind of business too, So
this was hourly charge, fixed machine hourly charge stuff. So this is almost identical to our target market of accounts.
Yes, and so you have a lot of ways to start. Okay, the simplest way is just what I shared before. Try to find things that don't require a lot of time. Like recording your screen when you explain something, it just takes 5 seconds. It's not gonna break your week, so just do that, and then suddenly, instead of having to re-explain this over and over again to new recruits, to people who forgot, etc., you have like a process. A video is a process, a documented process that people can see at will, and you can build this library of processes. And you can even ask someone in your team to transform these videos into written process. The thing, videos are great because you can, and I mean, today, so many tasks are done on a computer. You can basically document maybe not all the processes, but most of the processes, because most of the things are done on the computer. So just record your screen. You have softwares for that. On Windows, for example, you have Camtasia. On Mac OS, you have ScreenFlow, I think, that can do that. So it's very cheap. Loom, exactly. So it's very simple. You just need to think of it. And even if you are explaining something that is not on in a computer like that, is in real life, just use this new technology called a smartphone to record what you explain. At the same time, it just takes 2 seconds to start the video, seriously. And then again, you have a process. It's so simple, but you need to think about it. And most entrepreneurs, they don't think about it, then, ask someone to transform it into a written process, because the problem with the video, it's not easy to scan, So with the text, you can, search for a certain word in the text and find exactly what you want. So I will start with that, and progressively you will see you will gain some time. It depends also of your budget, of what are your resources. But of course, hiring people to help you is always a key to start to have a bit more time. But of course, it depends if you have the money or not. It's always the same problem. But let's say you have a bit of budget. There are so many like people you could recruit, but I don't know exactly what is the size of the company of your audience, but I will start with first a general assistant, like a VA, virtual assistant. You can even hire people from abroad. Americans, they work a lot with Filipinos, for example, because they have very good English. Of course, there is a problem of the difference in time zone. You can try to recruit English-speaking people in Africa, and it's because they are cheaper, obviously. And don't think it's like a way to exploit them. It's like you can give them incredible working conditions that they will only be able to dream of in their country. They will be able to work from home with a decent salary and with decent hours and this kind of stuff. And they will love to work for you. And for you, it's going to be cheaper. So it's one thing you can do. Even if you don't have a high budget, you can try to recruit people. There is a platform called Upwork, where you can basically find millions of people from all around the world. So a general VA, and you will start to give him or her basic repetitive stuff that you are still doing today. So
the thing that I like about what you said, Olivier, is I asked you, how do you start? And you immediately went to, well, here's the starting point. It's on processes. You immediately went to focus on the things that won't take much time. So start small. And basically your suggestion is video the process, possibly then get it transcribed using rev.com or Timmy, and get it transcribed into a document, create a checklist, and that this just becomes a way of life, that this is just, it's something that you're doing all the time. And then as you build momentum, well, then your team around you can begin to take on this role. But you
can also recruit new people. And a lot of people,
Olivier, just give people an idea. You are somebody who experiences total freedom in your business. So you travel all around the world. You're not location specific. What does your team look like? Do you have a team, and how does your team operate, and how does that work in terms of you being the poster boy of freedom and choice?
Okay, so thank you, Des. That's awesome. I'm the poster boy of freedom. I never thought of that. So my team is around 25 people. I have only freelancer. I don't have any employee. I live in Dubai. That's where my base is. But since 2010, I'm traveling 6 months a year. Well, in 2020, I travel a little bit less because of all the friction, right? But yeah, so I have total freedom. And my team, so I have only freelancers. Some of them work almost full-time. Some of them work part-time. So I don't know exactly what is the equivalent in full-time people. You know what I mean? I will say around 15 maybe. So there are, my company is organized with a few principles. The first principle is it's asynchronous. Asynchronous, meaning it's not synchronous, right? For thousands of years, the only way to do business and any kind of project was to work simultaneously, you know, like in synchronization, meaning you had to talk to people, basically. Today, it's not so mandatory. So what do I mean by asynchronous? It means in my company, direct conversations are actively discouraged. It doesn't mean it's forbidden, but it's discouraged. We don't want people to call other people. We don't want people to do meetings. We want people to communicate through project-based software like Asana, that's the one we use, or eventually emails. And so there are a lot of benefits with that. First, a lot of studies show that most of the meetings are a waste of time. You know, not all of them, but usually that's where people like lose the most
Olivier,
of time.
you're breaking my heart here by implying that meetings are a waste of time. I love going to meetings so much. Can we not have more meetings?
Well, if you love it, it's great, but is it efficient? It's not the same thing, you know? So it depends what are your priorities, you know? And don't get me wrong, it's a great way to do team building, to build like a great atmosphere in your business, but is it efficient? That's not what the studies measure, you know? It's not happiness, it's efficiency. And most of, like, I had to check the numbers, they are in my book, you know, but I think 55% of top executives in the US admit that they are daydreaming during most of the meetings, because the problem is most of the time they are just here because why not? But what people are talking about is not really their primary concern, you know? Again, I'm not saying it's forbidden in my company. We do some meetings, but we try to really, really have it at the lowest number possible. Also, the thing, I mean, when you don't have like direct conversation, and I know what I'm sharing is a bit extreme. I'm not saying it's for everyone. I'm just showing like one of the possibilities that is possible with today's technology. So maybe it can open a little bit the horizon of some people, you know. Well, a lot of conversations are not so efficient also, like in companies, you know, people are talking about, you know, daily stuff, you know, and in my company, it's really task-oriented, project-oriented. And the biggest benefit of this is what? Is we don't have any office. So it's like remote work, but there is something else. And it's not only remote work. It's also, we don't have any office hours and people can work at their own time. We don't care if someone wake up at 6 a.m. or at noon. It doesn't matter at all. So it's great because we can attract a wide range of people, you know, and they basically, our schedule is very, very flexible, and we can attract a lot of different people. And it's not for everyone also in the team, because some people need really like the structure that an office and office hours and someone being in the same room as them telling them what to do provide. But with this kind of organization, you attract people who are autonomous, who like freedom, who like the freedom you give them. And another benefit is you can recruit everywhere in the world. It doesn't matter if the person is in the same time zone as you or not. It doesn't matter. For some people, for some jobs like calling customers and this kind of stuff, you have to be not too far away, you know, but maybe plus or minus 3 hours, which is already a big part of the world. You know, you have people in your team living in a lot of places already. And so my team is from everywhere. My right arm, Elizabeth, she lives in London. I have my administrative assistant in France. I have a team of 4 people in Morocco, 4 people in Benin, which is a French-speaking African country. I have someone who is a digital nomad, so he travels all the time. Right now, he's in Myanmar. I think I have people in Quebec, you know, in someone I work with sometimes in Tokyo, etc., etc. It doesn't matter. So it means, I mean, Until now, you could only recruit in a very small area around your company. And now, suddenly, the whole world is open to you. You can recruit everywhere. As long as the person speaks the same language as you, there is no barrier,
So Olivier, you're touching on something that's quite painful for accountants right now. As Ireland and the UK open back up, okay, and people are now coming back to offices, accounting firm owners are sitting there rubbing their hands saying, excellent, everybody's back in the office, we can go back to normal. I'm not sure whether that's going to happen, but one of the resistances from accountants is it's extremely difficult to manage people remotely. Now, I've already had a huge insight into what you last said, because you said this is not for everyone. So this is not for everyone. So you need to attract people who are autonomous people. Yeah. But the big question, Olivier, you've got this team of 25 people all over the world. You've now got this asynchronous principle around which the business is built. We don't necessarily do meetings. We collaborate through project platforms like Asana, and that's where we communicate. How do you manage the individual inputs of team member number 22 and team member number 11 and team member number 7? How do you manage the outputs on something like that with such a broad, global, diverse remote team?
Well, first, my right arm, Elizabeth, she recruit and manage some of the people for me. So she's actually the one in contact with most of the team on my behalf. It doesn't mean that the team cannot reach to me, but they don't have any incentive to do it, and also, nobody in my team has my phone number except Elizabeth, my right arm, and she basically never calls me. Anyway, I don't answer the phone. So also, there is no urgency in my business. I understand that in some industries you can have urgencies, but usually urgencies, if you need to be called and it happens often, it's not really urgencies. It means your processes are not good enough. If an urgency happens once in a while, it's fine. It can happen to every business. But yeah, so yeah, and like I said, with this model, you attract naturally people who are autonomous. Okay, and to come back to what you said about the business owner who wants to come back to normal, I'm saying it depends. We both have a friend called Ricardo. You know him. He's a Portuguese entrepreneur, and I saw him in Portugal like 3 weeks ago. And before COVID, he was like super excited about expanding his office where he had around 20 people. He paid an architect to build, like to do plans to have an amazing office. And I saw him 3 weeks ago and he said, nah, I'm just selling everything. I'm going full remote, So it's an amazing transformation because it's so visionized that actually doesn't provide in his mind so much value. And of course, everyone is different. Some people will say, I prefer to have an office. Some people will say remote is the way. But I think the COVID situation really opened the eyes of a lot of business owners on the fact that it's not so mandatory to have an office anymore. It can be useful. It can be not so useful. Maybe you want to have an hybrid model where you give 1 day or 2 days a week to your employees when they can work remotely. And of course, I mean, if you see that the output of people is less when they work from home, something has to be done. You need maybe to do some training. Maybe the people are not the right fit for this model, and you tell them, so sorry, but you have to work at the office. So maybe it's an incentive for them to be more productive when they are at home. And also, if you use Upwork, for example, it's a great system. When the freelancer starts to work for you, you click on a button, and it's an Upwork software, and then Upwork starts to monitor what he does, and it's completely transparent, So sometimes Upwork takes a screenshot. It also monitors the keyboard activity, not what is typed, but if someone is typing on the keyboard or not, and so you can see easily if a freelancer is billing you and is not working for you. And I think it's a great system because it builds trust is based on, some kind of verification at some point. And when you are in an office, you can often, it depends how it's organized, especially, but you can see at what people are doing with a screen, and if you see someone watching Netflix in your office, you're going to say something to him, right? Well, it's the same principle here with Upwork.
Okay. Okay. Tell us this, Olivier. So the book is just out. What
Yeah.
is your favorite chapter in the book and why?
Oh, that's a great question. It's hard to choose like a part of a book you spent 4 years to write. But I would say actually it's the first part, the 3 principles to have a successful life. I think the exact translation in English is the 3 vital principles to have a successful life. Because I start with a quote from Emerson. I don't remember it exactly, but it says more or less, there are millions and millions of methods, but very few principles. The men who choose a method without understanding the principles are doomed to fail. The men who understand the principles can choose their method efficiently. So I decided to start the book with 3 principles based on this quote to help the readers to choose their method efficiently. And the 3 principles are, first, there are a more efficient method in every field, everything. And I give a few examples of like incredibly effective method that don't require a lot of time to learn, and you can learn this kind of method in everything, like how to make money, how to become a better entrepreneur or manager, how to make love. You can become a better lover just by learning a few tricks. Everything really. And then it's like the 2080 principle. The 2080 principle that you mentioned at the beginning of the video, like 20% of it's a principle where you spend 20% of your time, of your energy into something, and it brings 80% of the benefit. And a very important principle is healthy skepticisms, because it's easy to like be doubtful about miracle method, and it's completely normal. But sometimes something that appear to be a miracle is actually just a good method or strategy that is very common in an industry, but not in another. So it seems alien to you, but actually it's already proven. Or I love this quote from the American writer William Gibson. He says, "The future is already here. It's just not totally spread out yet." So sometimes you see a bubble from the future that goes on you, and you don't know it because it's not really well known yet, but it's gonna be the future standard, because it's more efficient. So how do you do to separate the fake miracle method from the great good processes, strategy, method, etc.? Well, it's not easy, but the principle I'm offering is healthy skepticisms, meaning it's completely normal to be skeptic, but you have basically 2 ways of being skeptic. You can be like, okay, I'm sure it's a scam. If it would work, everyone will know it, etc., etc., and then you do nothing. And then you have the good skepticisms, which says, hey, okay, maybe it's a scam. Maybe I should have know it if it would be really that efficient. There is only one way to know, is to test it to see if it works or not. So basically, you adopt a scientific mindset. Instead of rejecting the things outright, you're asking yourself, okay, what is the simplest experiment I can do to see if it works or not for me? And of course, you cannot try everything, you cannot try everything. You also have to choose your battles. But overall, it's an amazing mindset to have.
Yeah, I love that, because it's like you truly live this. You truly embody the scientific mindset. Like I've watched you where you will argue a side of an argument, and I'll be looking at you going, okay, but that doesn't make sense. But what you're doing is you're doing it from a scientific perspective and a scientific mindset.
Yeah.
And the scientific mindset is, well, so this is what's said over here. This is what's said over here. Well, let's try this and let's see what results we get. That it loses the dogma. It very much feeds into not just a scientific mindset. A scientific mindset for me automatically implies an open mindset, a growth mindset, and gives you a much better likelihood of getting a positive result.
And also it gives you a practical mindset, because you want to put in place an experiment instead of just having an opinion, And in the end, it makes a big difference.
So Olivier's 3 principles. So this is the chapter of The Way of the Intelligent Rebel. Olivier's favorite chapter, must-read chapter for everybody, is his 3 principles. Number 1 is healthy skepticism. Number 2 is apply the Pareto 80-20 rule. And number 3, there's always ways to be better. And if we just keep looking at little ways to be better, what do you think, Olivier? And I know this is, you've had a long career, considering you started your first business at 18, but in your career as a business owner, and now in your career as a mentor, as an advisor, what are the biggest mistakes that you see, the 3 biggest mistakes that you see business owners making that you address in here in The Way of the Intelligent Rebel?
Yeah, I mean, the first one is the mistake I did for 8 years as an entrepreneur. And it was, I think, the biggest mistake of my life is basically to not read enough books, enough practical books, I have to add, because I always love to read, but from the age, so I started my company at 19. I dropped school at 18, but I worked 1 year on the project, So from the age of 19 to 27, I was only reading fiction, which was actually, I didn't understand how missed opportunities I had, It's crazy because I think there were 2 things. First, I was very arrogant because I was thinking, oh, I'm so smart. I started my business so young and don't need to learn anymore, which obviously is a very big mistake. And second, nobody told me, hey, there are interesting practical books you can read to actually become a better entrepreneur. And it's so simple, but it's like most simple things. If you don't get the idea, you don't get the idea, So the first thing is try to read at least 1 quality business book, and practical book. It can also be personal development. It doesn't have to be business all the time. Every month. And if you read 2 good books a month, it makes a big difference because in 10 years, it will mean we'll have read 240 books. And if they are high quality, imagine the difference it will make in your intellectual horizon, in the skills you will have developed, in maybe the people you will have met because you will have go to some events and this kind of stuff. The difference is just huge, massive, and it's not such a hard habit to have. But I see, in our mastermind, a lot of people read, but a lot of entrepreneurs actually don't read enough, or they don't read at all practical books. Maybe they read magazines or fiction like I did before, but they don't do that. So that's the first mistake. The second mistake, I talked about it already, but it's to work too much in your company and not on your company. And it's a trap that most entrepreneurs fall into. And even when they are aware of it, it's easy to fall into it again. A simple trick you can do now that you know the difference between the 2 is to set up maybe a reminder every hour or every 30 minutes on your smartphone. And every time it rings, you're like, okay, what did I do in the past 30 minutes or the past hour? Did I work on my company or in my company? So you become a little bit more aware of these. And I would say the third mistake is people tend to recruit too locally even today. And I understand, it has a lot of advantages too. You have people who are in the same culture as you, who understand you, where you can eat with, it's great. But I will challenge you to at least start to hire 1 guy remotely, someone who doesn't live in your country, and see how it goes. Because also it can be very interesting to have someone with different working conditions from a different culture, and you will see it's not so hard to make it fit in the team.
Okay, so just to summarize then, Olivier's top 3 mistakes is to start, if you haven't already done so, by recruiting at least 1 person remote out of the country. Just start the process. Just get a feel for the process in terms of expanding your who hunting to greater area in your local area. Number 2 was to work on your business rather than in it, And Olivier is saying just really, really simple to look and to analyze your time and see, well, where did the last half hour go? Where did the last hour go? But to start tracking and keeping track of on versus in. And Olivier's third recommendation, which is totally contradictory to my wife, because I'm now banned from buying books on Amazon. But his recommendation is a minimum of one book a month, but really getting to 2 quality books a month. So obviously, this is the first one you should start with. On Amazon, The Way of the Intelligent Rebel. There's the first book that you should start on for this month. Olivier, mentors for you. Okay, so you're a mentor to not just thousands of people, but you're a mentor to hundreds of thousands of people. People interact with your 4 blogs, they interact with your YouTube channel. You've got over 500,000 followers. You're interacting with people all the time.
Yeah.
But can you share with us the mentor that has had the biggest impact on you personally? And what was it that mentor taught you that had such an impact?
Yeah, sure. So I said that when I realized the business I created to be free was actually a jail, I looked for solution for like 3 years and I didn't find any that was satisfactory. And I stumbled upon a book that completely changed my life, and it's The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And yeah, that's the book that started my journey to start an internet business. So I really owe a lot to Tim Ferriss, and I quote the book quite often in my own book, So, and the second one will be Jeff Walker. So that's, as you mentioned, we are both part of his mastermind, because he invented basically what is the most powerful method to sell online. I tried a lot of things, and this one is just the most efficient. It's called the product launch formula, and it's how to sell products online, especially online products, but it can be applied to everything efficiently. And just as a parenthesis, as a sideway conversation, but also maybe for some of the people who are listening right now, a way to automate a business is also to transform your skills into a product. So what does it mean? It means, for example, if you are a good guitarist, instead of making money by the hour by playing guitar, you create an online course to teach guitar, and then potentially you can sell it to thousands or tens of thousands of people without to have to do it, to play all the time. You know what I mean? It automates your money, and then you can actually make money while you sleep. But it's just one way of having a business in service of your life.
Yeah, I love that, because there are some accountants around the world who have basically built online training businesses on the back of their skill from accountancy, bookkeeping, business advisory. And it's a very different way of earning a living, but it's absolutely a scalable way of earning a living, because over here it's about inputs and outputs and tangible hours. Whereas when somebody was to move from their standard accountancy deliverables into an information product business, it would change everything. Well, sure, and let's be honest, your mentor Jeff Walker changed everything for me, because I was doing the hourly rates, I was doing the hourly work, but when I discovered launches and product launch formula, it totally shifted my thinking. So in terms of, you mentioned Tim Ferriss and the 4-Hour Work Week. Now, it's probably very difficult to pick one thing from Tim Ferriss, but if you were to pick one thing from Tim Ferriss, what was the aha moment, Olivier? And whether you knew it at the time or not, what was that aha moment that changed everything?
Well, there is a paragraph in the book that most people overlook, and I think it's actually the most important. Tim Ferriss says most people take productivity the wrong way. They learn productivity hacks and a method of organization that make them gain some time, in the week. But he says the problem is not this. The problem is how do you fill the void? Meaning how you are not bored when you don't work. So, for example, if you learn a new productivity technique that makes you gain, 2 hours a week, then you have 2 more hours in your week to do something. But if you don't know how you will use them, by default, you will spend your time in front of your computer looking for things to do. That's what he called working for work's sakes, and you really, really, really want to avoid to work for work's sakes. You want to work only if you need to, and you want to work efficiently. So it's very interesting. He says, actually, you need to think in reverse. You need to find something that fill the void first. And then you will be motivated to be productive because you will want time to do this activity. So basically, you want to find an activity. It doesn't say it with these words, but that's my rephrasing. You want to find an activity that makes you can't wait to close your computer outside of work. And when you have these, you will be so motivated that you will learn how to be more productive. You will spend less time to do more or less useful things. You will be laser focused. For me, what I found that is exactly like this is traveling. That's why I travel so much. For me, it's the way of filling the void. When I go to a new place, I want to do 1 billion things besides walking. I want to, explore the place, meet the people, do activities, eat the local food, etc., etc. So when I work on my computer, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do now? How I can do it in the most efficient way, so I can close my computer as fast as possible, so I can explore this new place. And for other people, it can be anything. You can find something you are really passionate about outside of work, and it will make you. It's a bit paradoxical, but it will make you more efficient at work.
Yeah, so to have something to focus on, not just I'm going to be more efficient, not just I'm going to save 2 hours, but here's what I'm actually going to do with my 2 hours, and have what I'm going to do with the 2 hours so exciting that it's motivating in its own right.
Yeah,
I love that, because I've read, I'm not a student of Tim Ferriss to the same level as you are, but I have read the 4-Hour Workweek, and I missed that piece.
It's very common. I know. I don't know why, but for me, it's the one, when I read it, I was like, wow,
Okay, so Olivier, right? The Way of the Intelligent Rebel. Our last wrap-up question.
Yeah.
What are the 3 nuggets of advice in here that you think this is why people should read the book? This is why people should buy the book.
Sure. So we already share a lot of things, like the 3 principles, for example. But yeah, I think the first nugget is to understand that with the right scientific mindset, you remove a lot of pressure, because also a thing that prevents people to do experiments when they encounter a new strategy or method is they're afraid to fail. They're afraid to fail publicly. They're afraid to be a bit ashamed to have tried this new stuff. Everyone will laugh at them. Well, if you adopt the scientific mindset, all of this pressure just go, because you're like, yeah, it's just an experiment. If it fails, it's okay. It's an experiment. Who cares? I just want to see if it works or not. And it's not only a way of being and thinking, but it's also a way of communicating that will explain to the other that there is actually no reason to laugh at all. And the second one is, the first part of the book is actually a criticism of the education system. So maybe it will not resonate a lot with the audience. I don't know, but because as the title says, I wrote this book as a guide for intelligent rebels. Now, what is an intelligent rebel? It's basically someone who he can have any age. He can be like student or already a successful entrepreneur. He can be very successful, like have a good diploma, a good job in a good company, a good car, a good house, a good family, etc., etc. But deep inside, he feels like something is missing. He has a little voice saying, hey, maybe there is another way for you to blossom, to be the best version of yourself. And usually what I found is for the intelligent rebel to blossom, he needs to go through creation. So it can be an artistic creation, like writing a book or even a movie, or painting. It can be the creation of an adventure, like, okay, I'm going to do a world trip for 1 year, or maybe more accessible. Jeff Walker share it like recently. Maybe you go on 1 sabbatical month, like in the next 12 months. That's a good challenge already. You're creating an adventure here, and it's a great way to incentive yourself to put in place good processes in your team, so you're not going to be called, during this month. It can be also like creating your own business, and the business that will allow you to really blossom. And I explore more the business part in the second part of the book. So to make a long story short, the second nugget will be to understand it's absolutely fine to be an intelligent rebel. And as an intelligent rebel, you can feel sometimes like a bit like a misfit, like you feel like there is a kind of, it's not super smooth between you and the system, like the education system, the workplace system, and you feel something is a bit off. And most of the intelligent rebels at the start, they think the problem is their problem, But what I'm trying to show in the book is like, actually, it's because the system was not meant for you guys. It was not meant for intelligent rebels. When you look, for example, at how the education system, even the workplace system, was organized in most of the Western countries, including the English-speaking countries. It was basically designed at the end of the 19th century, the education system, to have citizens who would be productive enough in an industrial society. What does it mean? It means they needed like good employees, good factory workers, good soldiers, So people were educated enough to like bring something to the economy, but we didn't want any rebels, any misfits, any creative people. Didn't want people who didn't follow orders and authority. And when you look at how school was organized, and it's still organized today, there are a lot of similarities between school and factories. Like students, align with the teacher, raised, on his throne as a power of authority, and ring a bell that rings every hour. And even before, I don't know in Ireland, but I know in the UK, they still use uniforms. In France, they stopped using uniforms in the 70s, but for a long time in most Western countries, children had to wear uniforms. So many, like a lot of symmetry between factories, army, and school, and because it was the same mindset. So, and we can also understand governments, because at the end of 19th century, most of the rebels actually were starting revolutions, like really bloody revolutions, like civil war in the US, like the Commune in France, where Paris was taken by communists for 1 year. So it was a mess, so they were afraid of this. But nowadays, rebels, they don't start revolutions, bloody revolutions, they start startups, they start new businesses, new adventures. So there is no incentive to, do that anymore. But the system has so much inertia that it's hard to change it. So it's important to realize this and to overcome the limitation of the system by yourself, because if you wait for it to reform itself, you're gonna be dead before it happens. So sorry, it's very long nugget, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of an important nugget, because it is kind of, the whole book is about that intelligent rebel.
Yeah,
and I love the way you described that, Olivier. It's like, it's just that things aren't smooth, because I can relate to it. I was never. I don't think I ever had the capability to work for anybody else. I never fit in. I hear this with accountants all the time. Accountants say to me all the time, that like, just they know there's a better way. They know there's something different. They know there's something more to it. They don't quite know what that is. They can't quite put their finger on it. But this lack of smoothness that you describe between yourself and the system. So the first nugget was have a scientific mindset, because this removes the fear of failure, because all we're actually doing is experimenting. The second nugget is intelligent rebels. And maybe there is another way. Maybe we don't fit in this system and we need to go through a creative process, whether that's a book, an adventure, or creating your own business. Did you have a third one, Olivier?
Yeah, I mean, I share so many things in the book. One of the criticisms I make about the education system is like, most people leave the education system and they didn't learn how to learn efficiently. You can spend 20 years or more of your life in school and nobody teach you how to learn efficiently. And the education system is very bad also at implementing the discovery of neurosciences and in the best way of educating yourself. So I'm sharing that in the book. I'm sharing different very simple tactics and strategies You can use like the space repetition, for example, that you can use with software on your smartphone today. I'm learning Portuguese with it. I mean, I never lived in a Portuguese-speaking country, but now I did like a few months ago a 1-hour presentation in Portuguese for Ricardo. For in front of I mean, it was virtual, but like in front of hundreds of people. And 2 years ago, it was in really physical this time, and it was in front of like 500 people. And I mean, for me, it's great. I didn't learn Portuguese at school. I learned it by myself using a software. And that's one of the things I teach in the book. So maybe the third nugget will be like, there are very interesting and efficient ways to learn that you never, nobody shared that with you in school. And today with nowadays technologies, it's easier and easier to learn every day efficiently.
Super. So, Olivier, thank you so much for joining us here today. I hope that everybody has learned something new. Like you can see me during this session. I've taken 7 pages of notes.
Wow.
In facilitating. So there was huge amounts of value for me in there. And the good news is that The Way of the Intelligent Rebel is quite a meaty book. So despite the fact that Olivier shared so much with us, he's only really touched the surface. This book is absolutely full of nuggets. I only got mine delivered in the last week. I'm dipping into the book. I'm dipping out of the book. I'm not necessarily reading it cover to cover, but I'm absolutely loving. I highly recommend The Way of the Intelligent Rebel. Get onto Amazon and you will have it straight away. Olivier, before we go, final comments.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I hope you learned something useful today. And yeah, for people who don't like long reads, they can also listen to the audiobook because there is an audible version. The 3 principles that we mentioned, I actually offer it for people who want to read an extract of the book. They just have to go. I will just give you the URL, but they can go to the wayoftheintelligentrebel.com, basically.
So the way of the intelligentrebel.com, and you can get a free sample. So Olivier, thank you very much. JR and the technical team for doing the recording. Thank you very much. You being here with us and giving us your time. Thank you very much. Check out www.theprofitpro.com or check out desoneil.com for our latest interviews, our latest publications, and our latest courses and programs. So thanks for joining us here today. And until I see you again, let's get it done. Okay, so I think you've got the.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, Gerald, take that out. Did you pick out a few nuggets, JR, that we might? So what we're looking at doing, Olivier, is we're going to send it to our entire list. But what we're also doing is we're just going to maybe pick out some nuggets and post them out through social media to lead to the full interview.
Oh, actually, let me do a story for my audience also.
I'll jump out.
If you don't want to appear, yeah. OK. I will do it in French, actually. Bon, les amis, regardez, je suis avec Des actuellement. Voilà, on vient de faire un podcast. Donc, Des est irlandais, il a un podcast en anglais. Donc, et regardez un petit peu le setup de malade que j'ai fait là. Voilà, c'est du n'importe quoi, c'est du MacGyver, mais c'est ça la vie de nomade digital dans les Airbnb. Thank you, Des. It was awesome. All right.
Super.
Man.
Olivier, I'll probably email you this afternoon or this evening, and just if we could get, we'll put a buy link or a link to your website.
Okay.
Underneath it, and we can put a bio or anything else you want us to put on that page. We can put that up there as well.
Okay, thank you. And
super.
So what? It was.
So what else is
very?
What else is going on with you? How's the American launch going? It's literally only landed on Amazon now, has it?
Like last week, basically. So I mean, it's good. I just checked the numbers today. I mean, it depends what you're expecting, but for someone who doesn't have an English-speaking audience, really, I'm like a bit less than 6,000 position for the Audible book and 14,800 for the paper book. And when it started, it was in 700,000 something, So I think on
You're,
Amazon
you're,
US,
make, you're making strides.
what?
You're making strides. You're making progress.
Yeah, I think basically it's gonna be a long burn. You know, I'm not going to reach like a bestseller list in 1 week. You know, I don't have the firepower for this, but I will commit to the book and slowly build the fan base. I know for a fact that people recommend it because it wouldn't have been a bestseller in French without it. So if unless I did a very very bad job at adapting it for the English speaking market, I know the word of mouth will start. You know, so I just need to make it start from the biggest base possible. That's what I'm doing now, and then I will help sustain this movement. So thank you for being part of the initial fire, man. It's awesome.
And look, like Olivier, so JR and myself were just talking about doing non-core accountancy stuff, doing business stuff. Ricardo is after giving me a kick in the stones because because you know, I've been talking about having problems with accountants for going on nearly 10 years now. And I'm still here, and that's admirable in some ways. But if I was to take a more scientific mindset to it, Ricardo, I was in contact with him last week or the week before because I've watched him build his marketing business, and he had this software for lawyers, but he's basically, if he can't sell it, he's going to like just stop it.
Yes, that's what he told me too.
Yeah. So if he can't sell it, he's going to stop it.
Yeah.
So I just think the time has come, Olivier, that I'm going to have to continue to serve accountants because this has been going on for such a long time now. And last year, this was the precursor to Michal and myself splitting. Was I had this big meaningful dilemma around, do I continue to work with accountants or not? I decided getting rid of Michal was the solution, not the accountants. Who knows whether that was a good idea or not? But yeah, so I'd like to do more of this and begin to build a brand like Ricardo did into the business market. So at later stages in your book tour, Olivier, I could talk to you for 3 hours and find it interesting. And if I'm finding it interesting, I can only presume that our audience will find it interesting as well. So, whenever you're at the next stage of the process, we're not going to sell a lot of books for you, Olivier. But if some people in Ireland will buy your book, if it's part of the bigger process, we're delighted to be part of it because, like everything that you said there, I could have said you were an accountancy expert. And everything that you said there is relevant. JR is laughing here because everything that you said there, it's like, it's almost 70% of it was stuff that I've said to them in the past. So yeah, we definitely love to have you back again whenever you're ready.
Thank you, man. And just maybe something I can share, because I was in your exact situation when I had my IT business and I started my company, the company I have right now. It was hard. I do the transition, and I was very tired of my IT company too. But it was my only source of income, and also I had like some like some customers I just liked, and I didn't want to drop them. So I did it in steps, and. A lot of people, when they think of selling their companies, just think of selling the whole block. But actually, you don't have to do this. You can sell parts of your company through time. That's what I did. And I started by the part of my company that I hated the most. So first, I really started by raising my price. So I got rid of all the cheap customers. And then the part that was taking me personally the most of the time, I sold it to a competitor. Because you don't have to sell the one block of your company. You can just sell, how do you say in English? Basically the customer list. And also the fact that you will introduce the guy who will buy to your customers, which is great. A lot of people are willing to pay for just an introduction. But if you introduce them and say, I'm stopping this activity right now, this guy is going to follow, most of your customers will just follow, and it's worth a price, and just if you can identify a part of your business you really hate right now and take too much time and energy, just try to sell it and keep the rest. And so you will suddenly, like this, you will have a lot of time to focus on your other project.
Yeah.
And maybe it can just be some customers, that take a lot of time. Maybe you just want to get rid of the 80% of the 20% of your customers that take 80% of your time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or the 20% of customers that bring 80% of the stress.
Yeah. 80-20 can definitely be applied anyway. 80-20
and if you don't find any buyer, just I didn't sell for a high price because I really wanted to get rid of it, but I still got a bit of money, which is always great.
Absolutely.
And what I did,
Okay,
I don't think you can do it now. Sorry, but I scraped the yellow pages of all the people in my industry, local, and I just sent an email to them. It's not forbidden because it's B2B, so you can do that. It's legal.
Cool. All right, Olivier, we're going to hit the road. Great to see you.
Thank you,
I'm
man.
hoping I'm hoping that I'll go to America in October. But if I don't go in October, I have the dates for February in the diary already.
All right, man.
All right, take it easy, Olivier.
You too. See you.
All the best.